Welcome to the Home Workers Network, the show that is all about creating an engaged home workers community that shares best practice and leadership so that together we can grow and develop ourselves and our businesses. Now, tonight is going to be a little bit different to our previous shows. And the reason being is that two of our main players are not with us tonight. It's just me and Crowbar. New name I've got for you there, Phil.
It's all right.
The reason being is that Jenko had to go to a conference in London earlier this week, and as a result had to change his football training around. He just called in a minute ago to say hi, but he's had to go. I'm not sure whether Marcus is joining us because he's busy at work too. He's going to try and dip in later on, but tonight it's just me and Phil. And tonight we're actually going to talk about, because the show tonight is about something that I think all people who work from home will be able to relate to, and that's challenges working from home, because I think that we all have a lot of challenges that we face when working from home. I mean, it has its advantages, but it has its disadvantages as well, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, we had a meeting online earlier on to talk about some of the things, and Phil's actually come up with, astonishingly, 14 things, challenges that he has working from home. So, Crowbar, we're going to go straight over to you. Tell us what your challenges are.
Right. Okay. Well, having been home working now for about 12 years, intermittently, also in office environments, virtual office environments, like you, Dici, on client premises and all the rest of it. So home working is a wider spectrum than just physically in your office at your home. But I think I was just thinking back to when I started, when Noah was a boy, and I remember at the time, I was married and we've got two kids, and I wanted to work from home. I'd given up my corporate job, given back the company car keys, come out in a rash, all that stuff. And you know what it's like. Okay. Cried in a corner for half an hour. But we had no spare rooms in the house. It was an old farmhouse, and we had no spare rooms. They were all being used. So I ended up starting the business literally in a cupboard under the stairs. And I had my backside sticking out, and the door open. Pretty. It was a horrendous sight. But it was a strange thing, because that was a real challenge. But at the same time, what I found quite interesting is that became like my own space. I had some shelves. I got some shelves put in at the top. I had my computer server underneath where my feet were. But that was a real challenge because, and especially, and I think people who have done this relatively recently, come out of corporate life, can relate to this challenge. When you're used to having lots of space, probably in some cases in senior management, your own office, not to mention your own army, and suddenly you end up in a situation where you're working from a small space. And it was a challenge, but at the same time, what I actually found from that is, because I was so passionate and so thrilled to have escaped the bullshit rat race and politics of the corporate life I was living. Do you know what? I could have done it, frankly, under the table. I'd have done it in the garden. I'd have done it anywhere, just to kind of just for the thrill of being free from that. One of the other things that I noticed pretty early on, and again, people who've been in corporate life can relate to this, I'm sure, is that all of a sudden I didn't just pick up the phone and phone 6437 to speak to IT.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, and I would call myself probably about 5 out of 10 technical. So I was reasonably high compared with perhaps a lot of people. And all of a sudden, your computer starts playing up, your broadband's going weird. In fact, I think we had about half a megabyte back in those days, believe it or not. It was horrendous, really. compared with now. That I felt, I remember feeling really quite isolated when it came to the IT side. So I managed to get a website built, which I was really pleased about, I was thrilled about. But then it got hacked. And probably a lot of people can maybe relate to that, especially those with WordPress sites. It's got a lot better now. The security is a lot better. But for some reason, which I think was a friend of mine who was a real geek said to me, it's probably some kind of bot, I think as they call them, that had hit my site. And all of a sudden I had this situation where the website was just coming up with weird, it wasn't porn, thank goodness, but it was just weird, random stuff. And I just couldn't do anything about it. That was a real struggle because I didn't have the IT knowledge to be able to solve the IT challenges and problems in terms of the setup, and then in terms of the reliability then of the computers that I had available to me. So that was one hell of a challenge, and I suppose linked to that now, but it's in a different way, is the fact that the challenges now in IT terms are probably more around keeping up with what's available, because we found this from this show, haven't we? That every week there's something new coming along, some new like Periscope. Now it's Blab, then it was Meerkat, then there's Stack, which I learned from you, which just shows you this show works, and Evernote, all these others. So it's quite a challenge to keep up with the latest stuff, but not only keep up with it, but also understand which of those new things are actually going to add value to your working processes and working life.
No, I completely agree with that, Phil. Completely agree with that. I mean, I remember when I started working from home, and you're exactly right about the whole IT thing. I mean, it's such a steep learning curve. And the thing is I didn't have the budget to get experts in. I had to learn it all myself. Inevitably you make mistakes and all the rest of it. But that learning curve is absolutely right. And while now it's much easier if you want to put a website together, you've got WordPress.com and you can knock up a website in a matter of minutes. But still, there's the learning curve of, like you say, knowing what apps, what services are out there and how to apply them correctly, and whether it's worth the investment in time in trying to figure them out, or whether it's just to drop it. And that's why I think shows like this work so well, because we get guys on like Marcus who invest that time in trying to figure them out and then tells us what's worth exploring and what's not.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And he has actually, in real terms, he's certainly given out.
I'm looking at Trello. I'm looking at Trello on his advice. Yeah.
Yep.
I hope he can join us today.
In fact, funnily enough, a client of mine, I went in to see a client of mine the other day, and I was chatting to him, and I said, "What is anything that you're using at the moment that's really, really made a big difference?" And he went, "No brainer, Trello."
Oh, right, that's interesting.
Yeah, because he's got a florist business, but he doesn't sell the flowers. He provides the relay software and infrastructure florists can actually. So he's a software company, really, but his background is in the florist industry, so he knows how it all works. And what he said that Trello's just made a huge difference just by having various, from a project management point of view, various people in the business with access to the ideas and access to the particular tasks that have been achieved. And he said it's just made a massive difference to him.
Right. Okay. Right. So back onto the challenges. Back onto your challenges. So there's one of your challenges out of your 14. What else have you got?
Yeah. Okay. Another one was I quickly realized that I could save a lot of money by outsourcing various bits and pieces of the business, including some of the IT stuff. And I went along with that, and I'm still doing that on a big scale. But what I realized was, even though they were based in other parts of the world, and Skype was allowing me to work with them. And just because it was one of those, just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's the best. And I had a few situations where I had to kiss a few frogs before I got the trusted associate networks up and running, that actually made a big difference, and I could trust in terms of what they were doing. But, there was some pain involved in being let down by various different suppliers in places like India and the Philippines that were cheap as chips, but not necessarily the best quality.
Right.
So that was a challenge, was to find trusted suppliers as associates and outsource providers. I just assumed that they would all have the same ethics and the same moral compass as maybe I had, but a number of them didn't seem to have that and let me down a few times.
Yeah, I've been let down by suppliers before, but and sometimes, I found sometimes it's better to have, even though it might be a little bit more expensive, to have someone local. So, for instance, printers are a good example of that. Someone local where if you need to, you can rock up and say, actually, I'm not happy with quality. Is there something you can do to adjust that? Or even, rather than waiting on a delivery, you can actually go and pick it up, especially if it's really time critical. And while it might be more expensive, price is not always the most important thing to me, definitely when I'm dealing with suppliers. But yeah, take your point there, definitely. What else? What else you got?
What else have I got? Something that comes up a lot, and we've even discussed it even on this show before, but even privately off the show. And that's this whole debate about work-life balance. And I think there are different perspectives on it, understandably. And I know you and I have debated it. But a lot of people do struggle with the fact that they are at home, they're working, but then if they've got other people in the house, that can be quite a significant distraction. And it's very easy to work outside of what you might call your 9 to 5 for the sake of a discussion, just because you're always on, you're there, you're physically there, your computer's there, and there's nothing really to distract you to the same degree as if you're in an office. The flip to that, of course, is that, and this is what I was saying to Adichie earlier, if you're an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial tendencies, and you are you have a new business to build, and you've got kind of major aspirations, in my experience, and I'm happy to be challenged by this, it's extremely difficult to make that happen Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So I think if you have a passion for what you're doing, and I mean a true passion, you end up putting extra hours in, because in a way, it's not about work and home. It's more like lifestyle. And sometimes during that lifestyle, you're working. And sometimes during that lifestyle, you're not working. And I think I've said this to you before. What I found working from home is, if I want to watch something on TV because I'm feeling a bit tired in an afternoon, or I'm a bit weary or whatever, I can do that because I know I can make up that work in the evening, which is flexible. But then linked to that, I guess, you've also got the scenario whereby what you might call distractions and of family and pets. So I've not got a pet at the moment, but I've had them before. And I had a situation the other week. I was interviewing somebody, and there's a dog started barking its head off in the background. Then next doors at the moment have just had a baby, and I noticed this morning that was striking its head off. And then of course you've also got that situation where you maybe, because you're at home, you might have been left a list of things. Can you just list? Can you just put the ironing out? Can you just do a bit of ironing? Can you just put something out on the line? Can you just empty this? Can you just put a casserole in for when? And it's this whole thing about, and I know Jenko said the same, it's like, even though I'm physically here, you have to get your head around the fact that I'm not here.
Yeah.
I'm just a figment of your imagination.
Yeah.
So I think that can cause quite a lot of friction sometimes in a household, because especially when you're doing this kind of thing where you're technically working, but your other half's kind of saying, "What do you mean you're working? You're waffling on the internet. That's not working."
I know that feeling well, and actually, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit with the family life balance thing, but it is a discussion worth having. I mean, I've worked from home now since 1999. Okay, and it was not only was it an enormous adjustment for me because I'm from the corporate world as well, worked for big companies, with lots of people around me and all the rest of it, and then like you, it just stopped one day, and I decided to do it on my own, and I was all on my own. It's a massive adjustment, but actually, it was just as much adjustment for my wife as it was for me. Right? Number one, I'm a messy bugger. So she noticed because I was at home all day that the house was always a mess. Okay, but that friction, that friction that you're talking about, it's real. It causes tension in the house on your relationships and all the rest of it. Also the whole kind of being able to switch off as well, because when it's your own business, when it's your own, I mean, I'm a whatever I do, I don't do things by halves. Whatever I'm involved in my life, I always try and do it to the best of my ability, whether I'm working for someone else or I'm working for myself. Yeah. But when you work for yourself, it's a bit different. You get extra. So where if you work for someone else, you might only work till 9 o'clock at night from home. When it's your own business, you'll go to 2-3 o'clock in the morning if necessary. And I've done that. I've done that over and over again, and I do find it very difficult to switch off because I am constantly working. And the problem is, Phil, is that when you're a one-man band and you work from home, all the things that you put off and the jobs that you don't want to do, the things that are not productive to your business, like accounts, for instance. I hate doing accounts. Absolutely hate it. And I even hate sending out invoices. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just admin that I really can be asked with, right? But they're necessary things that you have to do to get your business going, kind of thing. And I have discovered, and maybe it's something for a top tech tip later on, is Xero, which is a great accountancy package and takes the ball ache out of it, to be honest. But still, it's a chore. And what you say, well, you should learn to switch off. Well, yeah, you should. But when you do feel that you need to switch off, and you've done all the productive things, then you get to, but I start having the invoices out. Or, I haven't done the procurement, whatever that procurement is. In my case, it's coffee. To buy Nespresso capsules for my coffee machine. That should be another top tech tip, actually, for another show. But still, you've
been practicing that, haven't you?
What's that top tech tip? See,
you've just said it 3 times without tripping over yourself, and that's the first time. And you've been practicing it in the mirror.
I have.
I know you.
Did you guess? I am so busted.
Because you're a perfectionist.
You're absolutely right. But switching off is a challenge for me, even when you're on holiday. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I've just this summer we had the most amazing family holiday in Marbella for 10 days. It was incredible. And if you check my Instagram account now at Deachy, Deachy, you'll see some pictures on there from our holiday. It was a magical holiday. But when you're a one-man band and you have clients to service, if they send you an email and they want something, you've got to reply to it. Because if you don't, you end up losing the client. It's simple as that. Simple as that. So the debate is, where do you draw the line about switching off? Now, what I did when I was on holiday, to be fair, I did contact all my clients beforehand and said, look, I'm away. As you know, Mr. Client, if you email me at 10 o'clock at night and want something, you get a reply straight away and you get it. You never have to wait for it. But I do need a holiday, otherwise I'm going to burn out. So if you don't mind, try if you need to email me about something urgent, absolutely fine. But if it can wait till I get back, I would appreciate it. And most of my clients, to be fair, understood that. But even so, if they've got something that they need urgently, so I'm a content creator, and the type of emails I'll get late at night is, "Oh, Paul, you remember that image you took of us at this particular event? Can you get that image to me?" And it's very easy. Just go into my Google Drive or Dropbox and schlep it out to them. But when you're on holiday, although it's not a big chore to do something like that, at the end of the day, you've still got to do it. And if that means, because you haven't got Wi-Fi signal down at the swimming pool, you say to my wife or my daughter, "Look, I've just got to go up to the apartment because a client asked for something." You've got to do it, haven't you?
Does it bother them that, or is it your, guess what you might call your guilt complex, or does it bother you, or does it bother them?
It bothers me. It will bother them they could wait an hour. I suppose it wouldn't kill them to a couple of hours. If you think about it, who answers emails immediately? But you know what? With me, because that's why I use Slack or WhatsApp, because I think emails broke, if the truth be told. And
yeah, I'm a big fan of those applications.
If I don't reply to an email straight away, I might overlook it. That's my fear.
Yeah.
That is my fear.
I absolutely. I have to say that, and again, this is one of the amazing things about technology, is that I was away myself in the Algarve in September, but I absolutely loved it. The fact that I had access to Wi-Fi, I had access to my phone, and I could, if I got an email that I could ignore, I ignored it. If I got an email, I got one email saying, "Can you do a speech at a conference?" And I just went back and said, "When?" They came back and said, "I think November." I said, "Yes, how much?" They just offered the fee. I said, "Yes, fine." Job done. So that was like, and I felt almost like I was earning money whilst I was sat on a bloody beach in the Algarve. And I love that. I love that.
Mm. Yeah,
absolutely. I just think it's to have that flexibility. And when I was going on holiday, because of that, I was so chilled, because I wouldn't have been in years gone by, because I'd have been like, "Oh, what am I going to miss? Are they going to go somewhere else and use somebody else, etc." But and again, it's a personal thing. But when I said to you about do they mind, I also meant do they mind in terms of your wife and daughter.
Do my wife and daughter mind?
Mm.
It used to seriously bug my wife in a big way, because my wife is in her own right very successful, works for a media buying company. She's a media buyer, got a very successful career, but she does know how to switch off. But she has the support of a company around her, and people can pick up the slack and all the rest of it. I don't have that. And like I said earlier, it was a steep learning curve for her. When I started working from home, it was as much a learning curve for her as it was for me. But she's got her head around it now, and she understands it. But believe me, there's been rows. My daughter struggles with it a little bit because she's only 8 and she doesn't understand. Daddy's working. Why have I got to leave him alone? Kind of thing. But but it's getting easier. She's starting to understand it a bit more now.
Yeah.
But it's
interesting, isn't it? Because what it demonstrates when we're having these conversations, it just demonstrates how, to what degree we're talking about, and this is all the core of everything we do in this show is about home working. But it's actually more than that, isn't it? It's working from anywhere, isn't it? Really. I've got a friend of mine. This. It's worth just sharing this. Say a friend of mine is actually my other half's brother, and he's got a business which allows people to check whether their car, with the car registration that they're buying, is not got finance on it and all that stuff. And it all happens online. It's all, you pay £3 a check or whatever. All happens online. It's taken him a few years to set it up. He's got experience providing the data. And he went out and he lived in Thailand and Malaysia for 5 months. And with his family, but that's a whole nother conversation. Talk about brave. His kids are under 12. But he, you know, that whole thing about, you know, running your business from the beach and all that stuff. He actually did it. Admittedly, as I say, it was, you know, and to see that, and he was pulling in a really good crack. You know, it wasn't like it wasn't millionaire, but he was pulling in 6 or 7 grand a month, and he ran it from a laptop all over Thailand and Malaysia. And I just think that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's admirable, definitely. And with technology these days, particularly cloud solutions like Dropbox and things like that, it is possible to do it. I just want to address some of the comments, because I'm conscious that people who are watching this live are making comments, and I don't want to ignore them. So thank you for joining us, by the way, everybody. We really do appreciate it, and we hope you are getting some value out of the discussion that Phil and I are having, which is the challenges working from home. And let's have a look here. Steve Council makes a very good point. Outsource everything. Yeah. Do you know what? Now I've got that little bit of success and I've got budget. I can do that now if I want to. And I do outsource some things, but not all things. Because sometimes, you know, the saying is, if you want something doing properly, do it yourself. You know, but it's knowing when to do that and when it's cost effective.
Do you know what though, Deitchy? I think there's a bit of self introspection needed there for us all. You know, how much of it is about us having a bit, maybe some, you know, that whole control thing going on, that nobody can do it as good as us. Yeah. And I often think that I often do think that a lot of businesses, and I might even include my own in this, that could it grow much bigger and wider if I wasn't quite so, they have to have me. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, you know, but that, and sometimes it is that, because if you do a speech at a conference and then they say, right, loved what you said, like bald men, okay, come and work with me. If you then say, well, great, that's delighted that you want to work with me, but actually I'm going to put you in. I'm going to get Clive to come and work with you.
You have an unfair advantage. You have a unfair advantage, though, don't you, Phil?
Exactly.
I like bald men. Well, you got an head start there for a start. Yeah.
I had one, digressing slightly for a second, but I remember one woman came up to me and said, I thought it was fantastic, really enjoyed what you were talking about. And I have to say, I'm a big Jean-Luc Picard fan.
I'm more of a Data fan myself, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I was on a winner there, wasn't I? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just have a look at some of these other comments. Another comment from Steve Council, which I completely agree, and actually is something that I spend a lot of my time doing, and that is setting client expectations is a big thing to get right. And one bit of advice I got from a very prominent British politician was that, you know, it's always good to, by setting expectations, under promise and over deliver. You know, and that's a bit of advice that stuck out in my mind for many years. That politician is Michael Gove, who is the MP for the area that I live in. You know, and it's something I've always remembered, and that is a good way of setting expectations. Now, email is a bind, says Fran Parkinson. Beg your pardon. Hello, Fran. Yeah, email is a bind. I absolutely hate it, if the truth be told, but it's a necessary evil. And until someone comes up with a way to fix email, it's going to continue to be a bind. I mean, it's getting better. I'm experimenting with a couple of email applications at the moment. We're going into top tech tips territory here, but Mailbox is a good one. And the latest Inbox by Gmail is another good one, because it allows you to snooze email. So if an important email comes in, you can snooze it to come back into your inbox at a later time in the day if you can't deal with it there and then. So yeah, that's a good one. Actually, I should talk about that in a future Top Tech tip. But yeah, email is a bind. I can't stand it. And a lot of the clients that I work with use Slack. They have Slack groups. We've talked about that on previous shows, which is great. And also WhatsApp is a great way of collaboration. I think
apps like WhatsApp are absolutely awesome. But I do wonder, just while you were talking there, Paul, I just wonder to what degree, because it's instant communication, does that raise the expectation as well that when you send an email, because you're used to getting an immediate reply through these apps, do you then psychologically, do you expect to get a reply quickly through email?
Okay, well, that's a very interesting point. But the whole attitude around how you respond to stuff on things like WhatsApp and Slack is completely different. So, for instance, an email coming from a corporate account, you would spend more time. If it's a client, for instance, emailing you, you would spend more time making sure that it was grammatically and correct and spelt correct, okay, and that it looks good, the same as you would with a letter. With WhatsApp and Slack, there isn't that expectation. You know, you can use emoticons, you know, and more often than not, sometimes people send emails that only require a yes or no response or even an acknowledgement, right? With WhatsApp or Slack, you can just give them a thumbs up emoticon. That's your acknowledgement. And that's what I love about it, is that it's just a lot easier, and it does save you so much time. And the expectation of professional responses isn't, you know, the pressure's not there to respond professionally. So, well, of course, you got to respond professionally. You're not going to swear at them or whatever. But what I mean is that it doesn't have to be like a carefully thought out and grammatically correct essay, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Well, here's an interesting one then. I'm interested to get everybody's perspective, and obviously yours, Paul, as well. Just as a kind of experiment, I've started replying to tweets using the video function. And the initial... Sorry?
Yeah, interesting. Go on.
Yeah, because if you hit reply on a tweet, it'll offer you the option, of course, to click on the camera.
Yeah.
When you click on the camera, it then offers you the option then to record a video, obviously on your phone.
Yeah.
So what I've started to do is I'll hit a reply. So I did it the other day. I'd had a meeting. Somebody had put a tweet out saying, great meeting with blah, blah. And I went on and I did a video reply, and I just said, thanks for the tweet. Really appreciate it. Loved seeing you. See you again next week. Cheers. Now, I'm interested to know, will that kind of take off and become more the norm, or is that more irritating? And I don't know what the answer is yet. I've only just started to play around with it.
That is an interesting one, because one thing, we've had the functionality on WhatsApp for a long time, and now iMessage, Apple's baked in iMessage app, you have the functionality to be able to record your voice and a video for that matter.
Yeah.
Now, I use that all the time because I can't be asked to type it out. But I still find that you have to physically stop yourself from typing it out and think about, oh, actually, I can just record a message. And you know where you don't think about replying by just typing out a reply? You don't have that same kind of, it's not like built into your muscle memory to do a voice message instead. You have to physically think about it. And I think it's the same with replying by video. And I think that what we'll find is that the young people will cotton on to that very quickly. And then everybody else will do the same. Hey, Fran, welcome.
How are you doing?
Your audio's really bad. Would you just refresh and try again, please?
I'm using the app and I've been having a bit of problems.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. Tell you what, Fran, you sound just like a Dalek. I'm getting a bit scared.
Fran, could you type your comment out, please, in the comments, and because it's unbearable. So sorry.
No problem. Sorry about that.
Oh, thank you, Fran. Thanks so much. Thank you.
I'm really sorry about that. I'm really sorry about that, Fran, because you were adding some real value to this debate and this discussion. So we do these shows every week. So please do come back and
or if you can get on a laptop if you've got one nearby and come in through a normal web browser. I have that same problem when I use the app, that it does that to my voice for some reason. I don't know why that is. I think it's to do. I bet she's on an iPhone. But anyway,
doesn't it?
That's not a difficult prediction. That there is only an iPhone app. But anyway.
We also do. We're starting to do now what we're calling a bit like the extra factor or bit on the side, Big Brother. Paul did one this week for the first time, actually, and it just basically having a home networkers get together over a chat, and maybe you're having your cup of tea or your sandwich.
Yeah, basically, the lunchtime networking hour.
Yeah,
basically.
So we're going to do those randomly as well. So I think that's a good thing and a good idea rather than just big gaps between.
So let's just answer, because there's a couple of comments here that I still want to go through. I talked to a friend on Google Hangouts. This is from Fran, who just came in. I talked to a friend on Google Hangouts, and we know we are busy and we can't always respond immediately. Yeah, that's talking about responding immediately, which is a fair comment. I have a friend who does that, Phil. Really cool. People don't expect a video reply on Twitter. No, they don't. But I think that we'll start to see more and more of that, I think, going forward. Can I join the hot seat? Sorry, it's really sorry about that, Fran. Please make sure that you do come back again. We're going to be doing these shows every week, so we'd love to have your contribution. So moving on, because we've been talking well, Phil. We thought we wouldn't fill an hour. It's going well.
Yeah, but we got me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame that Fran couldn't come in, because it was only the other day we were saying in our GoToMeeting private meeting online that wouldn't it be nice to get more women involved in the show? So Fran, please make sure you do come back.
Way too much testosterone at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So go on then. You must have some others, because you had 14.
Yeah, I have got some others.
Discipline's got to be in there somewhere, because that was the one that Jenko was going on about.
Yeah, it is in there. Some of the more minor things that irritate me, and they're really minor. In fact, it makes me sound like a right sado. When I'm in the middle of an important phone call, when I'm in the middle of a blab show, some beggar comes to the door, and they keep hammering on the door.
Don't stop. Don't take no for an answer. You mean?
Yeah. I've had the gardener. Sounds a bit pretentious, but I've had the gardener come start up the lawnmower in the back garden. Sounds like a flaming helicopter's taking off, and I'm right in the middle of closing a deal with a client worth thousands of pounds, and I've got but they are real things. They're not, good blimey, they're not major things, but they are a bit irritating sometimes when you get people, and especially when you go to the door and it's somebody, I don't know, collecting for the local flipping cats home or something, and it's like,
what my irritation is?
There you go.
Do you know what my irritation is on a similar line? It's me mum and dad now. My mum and dad are divorced, right? They don't live together. One lives in Spain, one lives in Manchester, in Prestwich in Manchester. My mum's in Prestwich. And it's great that they've both got iPads and they use FaceTime to communicate with us and their grandchildren. But they haven't quite figured out that, when you bounce them, when they ring and you bounce them, you decline them. Because there's no voicemail like there is on a mobile phone. They think, maybe he's in a bad internet area or something like that. And then they ring back. And they keep ringing back until you bloody answer the thing. And it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. In fact, to such a degree that sometimes, especially if I'm busy or I'm on an important call, I will temporarily block them because I know they'll always ring me about something trivial when I'm right in the middle of it. So that's one of my irritations, although I love my parents dearly, obviously. In case you're watching, Mum.
There is another one actually as well, which is kind of linked to discipline, I think, and that's personal accountability. When you're in the world of work as an employee, most people will have a boss, and that boss will obviously have set you certain targets and deadlines and all the crap that goes with that. But what I realised when I kind of started this journey after a while was that I needed to make, from my personal point of view, I needed to make commitments to clients and people that with a time limit to it. Because what that did is it forced me to get it done. So if I'd left it open, if I'd left it open, I'll get back to you next week, I kind of in my head probably thought, well, as long as I get back by Friday, it'll be all right, or Thursday or whatever. But I started to say, I'll get back to you by close of business Monday. And once I've made that commitment, it put me into a position where, again, psychologically, I was keen to make sure that I delivered. And I think you made the point there, Paul, before about over delivering and under offering.
Well, under promising and over delivering.
Yeah.
Let me just. Fran's back. Hey, Fran.
Hi.
Oh, that's much better. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Fran. How are you?
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Hi.
Well, first of all, where are you, Fran?
I'm in Leeds.
Leeds.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now let me just. There's someone else trying to come in. Let's just see who they are first. Just 1 second.
Cool.
I'm in Manchester, Fran.
Hi, Phil. Great.
Hiya. And Deech is from Manchester, but in Surrey, lives in Surrey now. So we've got 2 Northerners and against 1 half Northerner. So we're doing all right so far.
Do we need another Southerner in to balance it?
No.
So, Fran, do you work from home?
Joking.
Do you work from home, Fran?
Sorry?
Do you work from home?
Oh, no. I don't work from home, but I head up a business centre. And we've got a lot of people who do work from home or who come to us who've been working from home. So I do appreciate quite a few of the challenges that home workers have.
Right.
So I've just really been resonating with the things that you've been talking about, which is why I was really keen to join in the blab. So thank you so much for letting me come and join in.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. And is there anything that particularly resonated with you?
I think just some of the things that you've been talking about, really, and just on a personal level, some of the stuff that you've been saying about email, I can definitely relate.
Oh, it drives me nuts,
It's
email.
mind, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just
it
trying
really
to
is.
keep on top of you.
Hello, sir.
Sorry.
We've got somebody from Morocco in the house now has joined us. Hello.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
I'm good. Do you work from home?
What?
Do you work from home?
Yes, in the seat 2.
Really bad. Really bad.
Really
signal
bad
there.
internet.
Really bad. Really sorry about that.
Dot C.
Oh, he's still there.
Yeah, that's really bad. I couldn't hear a word he was saying. What are the sort of things that people come to you talking about then, Fran? Do they talk to you about the challenges they have from home? Do they ask your advice and guidance and a shoulder to cry on and all that?
Yeah, they really do. And the reasons for them coming can be many and varied. So it could be just that, that they're struggling to work at home, or that it's lonely and that they just want somebody else to work with. Or it could be, actually, I think one of the most interesting ones that I had was somebody who came and said they needed somewhere to work because they were getting nothing done because of their cat. I don't know what that was about.
No. Barking dogs I can get.
I've never had a cat problem before, but anyway, that's the first. But also,
sorry, go ahead.
They're looking to recruit.
Right.
So there's a lot of freelancers who work from home anyway, who are just looking for that community of support, really. But there's other people who are looking to take staff on.
We had someone on the show last week who has one of these kind of shared open spaces. So a bit like a business centre, but it's a shared open space which I
We've
thought
got
was
that
actually,
too.
I'd not heard of that before, but I think that's a really neat idea, actually.
Yeah. We've got that actually. Sorry, I'm just going to shut the door. Won't be a second.
You're all right.
We've got a big co-working space for digital, creative, technical businesses, which is based with. I don't know if you've heard of the Yorkshire Post, but it's just with our local.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
It's on site in there, and we've got about 24 co-working spaces. So they are a really good idea because it's just a lot of people who are working from home don't want to completely give that up. So it's just good to have somewhere to just come and be able to bounce ideas off with other entrepreneurs, but also to have that, that flexibility really, so that they can still work from home.
Right, Fran, just out of interest, how does that work? These open spaces? Do you just turn up and pay as you go, or is it a contract? How does it actually work? That
depends on the location really, because there are a few different ones. I mean, the way that we run it is we have this sort of co-working space where people can have a dedicated desk, and they do sign up to a contract, but they are on very flexible terms because we really support business startups.
Yeah.
But other places might have more of a sort of hot desking arrangement where people can just come and just pay for use of, say, a couple of hours or whatever. So it just totally depends on the location.
Just out of interest, what's that likely to cost? So if let's just say I rock up at your shared open space and say, look, I just want a bit of company today and just someone to banter with. How much is it going to cost me to have a desk for the day? What's it got to cost?
Yeah, we used to do we do virtual offices as well. So we used to do what was called the Virtual Office Plus, where people could hot desk, and that was basically it was $55 a month plus VAT, so pretty reasonable really. And that's for the month though, so they could just come and use it for about 2 or 3 days a week.
And was there always
£55 a month? Is that all?
That's astonishing. Yeah. I didn't expect that to be a day.
I wish you were in Manchester. I'd be in.
Oh, that might be our next move then, to set up a location in Manchester.
Well, if you do, I go to Manchester a lot because, like I said, my mum lives in Manchester, so I would definitely use that without a doubt, just so I could get some peace and quiet.
Oh yeah, that's the other reason why some people come in. Getting away from the nagging wives is sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. But so £55 for a month, and I can use that anytime I want in the month.
It's basically, it works out about 40 hours a month, so it's about 2 days a week, so it was quite reasonable. We've grown as a centre, so we've not been able to offer that anymore, but it's something that we might do again going forward.
I think it's a great idea, really great idea for a business, and I assume there's all like coffee and internet and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we provide access to all of that, but we do training and mentoring as well, so there's a lot of extra additional services that people can have as well.
What a brilliant idea. Perhaps I could ask you this just as a bit of support for some of the people that may use your, and I'm thinking of a bit of a shameless plug here, but would you, mention the Home Workers Network to them?
I'd be delighted to. That'd be great.
Fantastic.
I mean, to be honest, it'd be good to follow up and find out more about that, because I've not actually heard of the Home Workers Network.
Right. Well, if you go to our Facebook page, it is brand new. And let me, while I've got you on it, very quickly, it's brand new. We've exploited this technology. I'm just putting in the Facebook Home Workers Network. I'm just putting that in the Facebook group in the comments there. There you go. And it literally, there's another guy who can't be with us tonight called Jenko. Phil and I met on Blab a few weeks ago and came up with the idea in literally half an hour.
Oh, really?
Really.
So tell us a bit more about it and what it's actually about.
Well, it's it is what it says on the tin. It is what it says on the tin, Home Workers Network, and we're using this once a week. We do a little show and we talk about things to do with working from home, and we support each other.
Wow.
And what we started doing at lunchtime, not every lunchtime, but when one of us is free, doing a lunchtime networking hour. So people can just come on Blab and say hi. So if you work from home and you feel a bit isolated or whatever, you can just jump in and say hi.
That's really cool, is that? I mean, to be honest, I think Blab is quite new for people, isn't it? And I think
yeah.
People are still learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Mark. How are you, sir?
How you doing, Paul?
All good. Yeah, all good. Now, Mark is from he's from Essex, but he lives in Israel. He's in Tel Aviv,
and
just outside Tel Aviv.
because I work from home as well most of the time.
And he does. We talk a lot on this thing, don't we, Mark?
Oh,
Yeah,
We do.
Black-
And what is
Black-
it? What is it you do, Mark? Again?
I do digital marketing. I've got a digital marketing company. We work remotely.
Excellent.
great stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, just out of interest, to keep the relevant, what challenges do you face working from home?
Distraction, motivation.
Right.
I won't lie. At the moment we used to have an office in central Tel Aviv. We closed that down not long ago, and we are thinking about looking for another space. But since then, we've been working remotely. And I've worked remotely on and off for many years. I was a freelancer before opening my company, and that was all from home. But I am someone that likes to get out, and I do like to meet people and interact. And I do think there's a huge difference in doing that than sort of just doing it from behind like email and stuff like that, and social even. So for me, recently I've been struggling a little bit with motivation. I think that's something that's you get very easily, well, not very easily, but easier when you work alongside people on a common theme or project. And also that distraction, right? Like when you're at home, it's very easy to say, oh, there's some dirty dishes over there, or like the laundry needs, it's very easy to just sort of take that break and then do something and get a little bit distracted. So they're difficult for me. I've semi overcome them. I think having your own workspace and making sure that you actually get up and go out a little bit, whether that be for lunch or a little walk around the block or whatever it is.
I saw what you had for lunch the other day, mate, and I was very jealous. He had falafel from one of the amazing falafel houses, and there are lots of them in Israel, in Tel Aviv. Yeah.
I do make an effort to get out and walk down the street, even if it's just to sort of buy some lunch or a drink or a coffee. It might cost a little bit more than making a coffee in the kitchen, but when I do that, I'll come and sit straight back down again, and I don't have that sort of, that separation from the computer for like a few minutes.
I'll tell you what I've noticed, and I've just thought of this when you were talking there, Mark. And it might be just, again, a personal thing, but when I go out and I sit in a coffee shop and look at, if I've got something, like a view to look at, I find I'm more creative. I feel as if my ideas start flowing a lot easier than if I'm just staring at a wall in the house. Does anybody else experience that?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I do experience that, and sometimes I will literally just go out if I need to be creative, go out, sit in a coffee shop, and do exactly that. I know Marcus does it. We've seen Marcus do it a few times. Now, what I want to do is because we're coming up to the hour now, we've got 7 minutes left till the end of the show, and I'd like Fran and Mark, if you've got time, just to stay on, because we're going to do the segment that we do every week, which is top tech tips, right, from working from home. Now, I want to start with Mark, because I know Mark knows his technology. I've spoke to Mark many times over Blab. What application, piece of hardware, software, whatever, do you, just one, I only want one, that makes a big difference to you working from home?
That's actually a really tough question. You're putting me on the spot, because I have so many things I use, but I'm trying to think what really connects to sort of working from home.
What could you live with? What couldn't you live without?
No, I guess for me, because we're a distributed team that are working remotely. For me, it's my communication tool. So it's pretty basic. It's not going to be anything that impresses anyone here. It's going to be Skype. It's going to be Slack. Slack, maybe a lot of people aren't using. So for me, Slack has become massive for our team. Slack and I would actually say now, to give you guys a bit more, Slack and Appear.in are probably my two biggest things that sort of connect to my team remotely.
Right. And okay, that's great. Thanks for that. So Slack, we use it, the Home Workers Network, and I use that with a lot of my clients as well, actually. Slack, I couldn't live without Slack now, if the truth be told. It's a fantastic, and for those that don't know what Slack is, the best way to describe it is like WhatsApp, but an for enterprise. It does a lot more than WhatsApp, but it's essentially an instant messenger, but supercharged. It's fantastic. We'll cover that in another show, perhaps. But thanks for appear.im. He mentioned another one. I did ask for only one. He gave me two. We're using that. It's okay. We're using that on the Homeworkers Network too, to have our sort of pre-show meetings and after-show meetings. And appear.im is essentially, the best way to describe it is Blab, but private. And the only difference is that, I mean, it's almost the same as Blab. There's a chat room and all the rest of it, and you can have up to 8 people in instead of 4. So that's appear.im, and I definitely recommend it. Okay, thanks for that, Mark. Really appreciate it. Fran, have you got any top tech tips?
For what's useful in terms of connecting?
Well, just like if you were working from home or from a remote space like you have, what sort of, it could be a piece of hardware. It could be an app that you use on a daily basis. It can be anything at all.
I think one of the things that I'd probably say here is probably Twitter, because I use that a lot. And I think in terms of building engagement and interactivity, I think it's a great platform to be connected on, really. And I think as well, it builds that sense of connection, so that one of the problems for home workers can be that isolation. But if you've got a platform like that, it's a good way of getting your message out there, but also connecting with others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to follow you on Twitter now. And
okay. The hashtag hours as well on Twitter, because you can join in a hashtag hour, can't you? So things like your home workers networking group is an absolutely brilliant idea. But with the hashtag hour as well, you've got somebody to interact with then, and it just breaks your day a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I found that Blab has done is made my Twitter audience far more engaged. So, for instance, Mark here, we met on Blab. Now, the thing is, we've never met face-to-face, yet a lot of the time when people follow me on Twitter, I don't know who they are. I don't know who it is following me. I've never heard of them or whatever. But if Mark... Say again.
I said I wasn't actually following you on Twitter. I am now. I don't know why
I'll follow you back. But the thing is that if Mark follows me on Twitter now, I know exactly who he is.
Yeah.
And I will follow him back. Because, we've made a real connection, even though it's not face to face. It's a real connection, and I think that it's done wonders for my Twitter engagement, actually. So that's a really good top tech tip there, Fran. Thanks very much. Phil, what about you, my man?
Well, just before I do that, very quickly, one of the things we're toying around with, and it's very, very early days, but one of the things we're toying around with is at some point is maybe to take the Home Workers Network offline as well as online. For those of you that are listening or watching that are old as me, you might remember CB radio, you might not. But we used to on CB, I'm showing my age now. I know I look a day over 50, 60, 70. But we're playing around with the idea of actually starting to maybe create some local networks to actually physically get together, which I think's got potential too. My top tech tip is so extremely complex in technical terms, it's going to blow everybody's mind here. But I thought I'd mention it because the other day I was on my laptop and I was with a group of people, and I use something called sticky notes on my laptop, which is basically just like the sticky notes. And 3 people said, "What the hell's that on that?" I said, "Well, it's just sticky notes. You're just like the sticky notes, but they're electronic, so it gives you a to-do list." Brilliant. But all 3 of them were blown away by post-it notes on the laptop.
That's really cool.
So I thought, you know what? It's available on Windows. I don't know if it's available on Mac, but it's available on Windows. Just put sticky notes in the bar and it'll come up, and then it's just like a post-it note, but it's electronic, and you can just add to it and keep an eye on what you're doing. So I told you it was very technologically advanced. Paul will probably be blown away now with that technical insight.
I am absolutely. Okay, Phil, thanks for that. I'm going to give mine, and it's a very quick one because we're coming up to the end of the hour now. Mine is an app called Overcast. Now, I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts. I'm an avid listener of podcasts. And, to be fair, the baked-in podcast app for Apple is superb. It really is. But actually, I'd heard of Overcast quite a long time ago and never really downloaded it because I thought, there's millions of podcasts. podcast apps out there. But I was listening to the Cultcast, which is a podcast I listen to avidly every week. And it was on their top tech tips or their equivalent to that at the end of the show. And they talked about Overcast, and I downloaded it, and I absolutely love it. It is, without any shadow of a doubt, my go-to podcast app now. And what's that, Mark saying? I'm waiting desperately to use Overcast when I get my iPhone right. So you've got so what are you an Android user, Mark?
Yeah, I can't. I'm literally getting an iPhone now for some of these apps. I just can't get on Android.
Yeah, Overcast. And what I love about it, there's a few little features. First of all, finding content on the sort of minefield there is there, because there's so many podcast shows now. Literally, to sift through them all, and the search on Apple is absolutely rubbish, if the truth be told.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big Apple fan, but search is rubbish on Apple. And what I love about Overcast is that you can recommend a podcast, which I would encourage you all to recommend when you get the Overcast app. Recommend the Homeworkers Network, which you can find on Overcast. But you can recommend shows, and it's user generated. So the recommendations in that section on the Overcast app is from users themselves. So if there's a technology podcast that you like and you listen to, you can recommend it. And the ones that get the most recommendations go to the top. And I think that's much better way, crowdsourced, if you will, curation, rather than what Apple seems to think is the best, which could be on the amount of plays that they get. I don't know how they do it.
Right.
It's probably on the amount of plays that go to the top. Well, just because a podcast gets lots of plays doesn't mean to say it's actually the best one out there. So I love Overcast. It's got some other really neat features as well. You can change the speed of podcasts.
I was going to say, Paul, I heard someone recommending the other day that they are literally like 10xing the speed of the podcast and just consuming content. They've like trained themselves to listen to it on a really fast speed. And they're just getting through like books and content like super quickly, essentially.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's got that little feature on it. The other feature that I really love, and I need to turn it down because I don't want it to play on here. So it comes under the effects. The other thing is you can boost or amplify the sound, because if you're listening to it through your iPhone speakers. The iPhone speakers, the baked-in ones, are not really that good, but you can actually amplify it, especially if you're in the car. Although my car's quite a modern car, it's practically brand new, and I've got Bluetooth there, so I can listen to my podcast through my car stereo system, no problem at all. And so Overcast is my top tech tip. I'll definitely recommend it. Make sure if you do get the Overcast app that you subscribe to the Homeworkers Network podcast channel. A little shameless plug there. Well, we've come to the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Fran, for taking part. Mark just dipped out. Thank you, Mark. Thank you as well, Mark, for your contribution. It's really appreciated. We're going to be back again next Thursday. We haven't set the time yet, but it's likely to be back during the day. We want to experiment a little bit with the times. Which is not an issue if you're listening to the podcast after. But we want to experiment with the times. And it's quite interesting because what we wanted to see was if we would get more Americans in. And that's not been the case. Has it, Phil?
I'm surprised.
No, it's not been the case. I'm not quite sure why, but we certainly seem to have hit a note with the English. Well, the British.
Speaking.
Some Scotland will be beating me to a pulp, and Julian Jenkins will be killing me because he's Welsh. But we don't hold that against him. Absolutely. M.
Dixon in the audience is from America. Thanks for that, M. Dixon. But we were expecting, by doing it this time, that we'd get a lot more people from over the other side of the pond taking part. And that's not been the case. And in fact, we seem to get more when we do it at an earlier time, which is interesting. But anyway.
2 a.m., Paul.
What's that, Fran?
You tried 2 a.m.
No, thanks. But listen, guys, thanks very much for your contribution. Thanks, really appreciate it. Phil, always good working with you, my man. and we'll be back sometime next week. So thank you very much.